What is up, YouTube? So, last night, I need to start losing weight again. I need to get back into the gym. But anyways, last night, power on the entire city went out. Which was kind of a good thing because I've done something that I have not done in a good bit of time. Not a long time. Like it hasn't been longer than a year. But it's been definitely longer than a few weeks. It's been about a couple months since I've done this. Last night the power went out, and so to buy time until I went to sleep from 8 o'clock to 1 o'clock in the morning, I just started reading the Bible, and I started at page 1 in Genesis 1, and then I went from that to Genesis 38. Genesis chapter 38, all the way up until the last verse of chapter 38. So I need to get into verse 39, obviously, and continue reading. But while I was doing that, I'm not normally the type of person that reads the Bible front to back. I read verse to verse and kind of go backwards and in the middle and just read random verses that I come across upon that relevant in that point in my life. So I never read the Bible front to back, and I think I need to start doing that more often, reading it front to back. Because I've noticed a lot of things that I have never noticed before. The first thing I noticed is the part where it talks about the curses that were put onto men, women, and the serpent and the world. I noticed that we notice that one of the curses are sweat from the brow when working. It doesn't quite read like that. The way it reads is, man, because of you, the earth is cursed and will grow thorns and shrubs and weeds and stuff that does not belong. And it is your job to remove all that stuff. When you remove that stuff, you will experience pain and you must eat the bread to live. That's the first thing I noticed. The second thing I noticed is I've obviously read a little bit of the story of Jacob. I've heard a little bit of the story of Jacob, but I did not read or hear it the way it was talking about. You read it differently when you read it a different way. Um, so Jacob, everybody knows Jacob. He was the son of Isaac Esau, Esau. So Isaac and his wife, what was his wife's name? Wasn't his wife's name Sarah? No, his wife's name was Rebecca. Um, so Isaac and Rebecca had twins, and the firstborn twin, the one that will inherit his father's land, his birth blessing, is what it's called, his birthright, his blessing from his father. So Rebecca and Isaac made a plan. And this plan was, his father Isaac was getting extremely old and his eyes were weakening and he could no longer see. So he was supposed to bless his son easu before he dies. He knew that his time was coming up and he needed to bless his eldest son so that way God can bless him and he can be the leader of a new nation. But Rebecca, their mother, and Jacob made, your father is weak. I just overheard him talking to your brother. He wants your brother to go hunt for him some game, which is basically prize meat, the best meat you can hunt for, and make him a meal and eat. And so Rebecca's plan that she tells Jacob is that because Jacob's the mother's favorite son, and because I can't pronounce his name, Esau, something like that. Because he was the oldest, he was obviously Isaac's favorite son. It was tradition for it to go from father to oldest son. And so Rebecca, with Jacob being her favorite, she tells him, "Go get me 2 lambs. Go get me 2 lambs, 2 of the best lambs, and bring them to me, and I will make a meal for your father that he will love. And you will go present this. Instead of your brother receiving the blessing, you will receive the blessing yourself." And so Jacob asks, "I know he cannot see me, but my brother is a hairy man, to where I am smooth-skinned. What if my father decides to touch me?" And she, then instead of receiving a blessing, I will receive a curse. And Rebecca tells him not to worry. If your father does find, I will take the curse on myself. And so Jacob brings his mother the 2 lambs, and she makes a meal from it. And they also make wine for him. And it says, "Hey, Father, it is I've come to give you this meal and receive your blessing." No, he says, "My name is Easu. My name is me, your son Easu. I have come to receive your blessing." It's Jacob and not Easu. And he says, "Who are you?" He says, "I am your son Easu." And he says, "May I touch you?" And so his mother had made him a cloth to wrap around him. So it seems like he's hairy from the lamb's wool. And he goes on to say, "You sound like your brother Jacob, but you feel like You sound like Jacob, but your skin feels hairy like easu. I am confused. Um, and he's like, give me a kiss. And when he gives him a kiss, he smells him, and it's like, I am very confused, but I trust you. That stupid train. He's like, I am very confused, but I will trust you and give you my blessing. And so he says, you will be through Abraham and through me, your father, your seed shall produce multitudes, and you shall be a father of a nation. The same blessing that God gave to Abraham, the same blessing that Abraham gave to Isaac, and now the blessing is being brought down to Jacob. Next thing you know, easu says, Father, it is me, your son. He is like, who are you? He said, I am easu. And Isaac says, then who was that I just gave my blessing to? And he ends up realizing that this was indeed Jacob. And he says, it is too late. I have already gave him my blessing. I have another blessing for me. Do you not have one that I can take on? He's like, I'm sorry, just not try to follow in the moment. I have already gave your brother dominion over you. You shall now be his servant and follow him. And so he's angry about this and now wants to kill his brother, Jacob. So Rebecca tells Jacob to go off to and hide and find a wife. So that, and he starts working for his uncle, and he's like, uncle's youngest daughter. Remember back then, everybody was related to everybody. People interbred all the time. It was natural. In fact, it was required to keep the lineage of God. Nowadays, it's looked upon, but I mean, Abram's wife was his sister. It says that in the verse. But he's like, he knows his youngest daughter, what was her name? But he noticed his youngest daughter and knows that she is very beautiful and he is attracted to her. And he is like, I have come, I am the son of Isaac, who is the son of Abraham. I have come to ask for a place. I have come for work. And he's like, well, how am I supposed to allow you to work for me for free? I need to give you a price. And he notices his youngest daughter, and it's like, I would like to have her for a wife. And he says, okay, you will work for me for 7 years, and in return, I will give you her from your wife. And then so he works for him for 7 years, and in return he gives him a wife, but it is not the wife that he expected. It is his eldest daughter that he gives to him. And he's like, why have you deceived me? He's like, I have worked for you for 7 years. Can I have my bride now? I wish to sleep with her and have children. And so he goes and sleeps with her, and then he wakes up the next morning and notices that it is not the youngest daughter. He's like, why have you deceived me? The deal was for the youngest daughter. And he is like, it is tradition for us to not give our youngest daughter first. If you work for me for another 7 years, I will also give you my youngest daughter to marry. So he works for him for another 7 years, and he he finally receives the daughter and her slave. Each time a daughter is passed down, a slave is presented with them, and there's a reason for this. The wife normally, if she cannot bear children or something like that, she would present her slave to him as another wife, um, and they will produce children. And and so he finally receives her, and then he's like, work for me for another uh 7 years, and I will. He keeps on changing the opportunities, trying to, because he noticed that as long as he is working for him, this dude has a gift by God to allow what he's doing. He is breeding the animals and feeding them and herding them. And he is like, work for me another 7 years. If there, he is like, if there are any that are not spotted or speckled or dark fur, basically talking about the goats. No, the sheep. He's like, any that are not certain colors, I will not stolen. Um, he's like, any that are speckled or spotted or dark fur, you can have. Um, but any that are not those colors belong to me. And if you have any that are not those colors, I will know they were stolen from me, and not the ones that I am giving to you. And basically, the thing is he's trying to manipulate him into basically working for him for the rest of his life. Um, and so God comes to him in a dream and tells him that if he says you can have these, then that is all there will be. There will be no other kinds born. It would only be the spotted, speckled, or dark fur. Um, Basically, this dude is now bankrupt. He has no animals to profit on, because all the sheep, thanks to God, are being born as the ones that he is supposed to have, because this dude is manipulating him so much and changing his rate over and over and over again, trying to keep him with him. And so he finally escapes from the work and takes his daughters with him. And his daughters, now they're both his wives, and their slaves are his wives also, because 12 children with all women. Like, he has like 5 with one girl, 1 with another girl. He has 12. And so now that he's escaped, he's going back to his brother, make amends and hope that his brother does not kill him, but because God has blessed him and is guiding his journey, back, his uncle was like, why have you left me? Why have you stolen from me? He's like, what did I steal from you? If you can find something I stole from you, then you can take it back. But if you cannot find something, then you have to leave. So he searches all the tents and cannot find anything. Searches his 2 daughters' tents, the 2 slaves' tents, and his tent, and cannot find anything. So we shall set a pillar here. I cannot cross this pillar. You cannot cross this pillar. And if either one of us breaks this, then let punishment by God be brought down on different ways. And he gives his daughters and his grandsons, because they had all boys, 12 kids, all boys. That is crazy. And they're goodbye. I was like, I'm basically never going to see you again. And so next thing you know, he's about to the tower. So he starts sending his people. He got some people to join his, and he sends them one at a time to his brother so that they can get, in hopes that he won't kill him. He says, "I am a gift from your brother Jacob, and my master wants me to not." And he sends them one at a time until all 800 men are now with easu, and starts marching with, and talks to his brother, and was like, Jacob's thinking, "Oh man, he's going to kill me. He's going to kill me. I just know this is going to happen. I've done so much wrong to him." And easu basically ran up to him and hugged him. Easu back the blessing that belonged to him, and it's basically like, "I'm now your servant." And then Easu's like, "Who are these people?" And he's like, "These are my wives and the that God." And so Isu says, "You can come home. I'm sorry, but we had a long journey. We are exhausted. We cannot walk. We know where it is. We'll be, if we continue traveling, our livestock will die. We will die. We will be right behind you on our way." And he's like, "Okay, granted." And they go home, and they live to a right age, and they die. So I found that story very interesting because I didn't know that Jacob, I knew that he was a whole and a blessing by Isaac put onto him, but I did not know the story on how he received that blessing, and the fact that he stole his brother's blessing and still received forgiveness. And not only that, but welcome, is just amazing. So yeah, that was definitely awesome. I'm losing storage, so I'm going to get off here later. Bye.